Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video, we're going to be trying to answer the question of, will the Tampa Bay Buccaneers re-sign Jameis Winston? So guys, without further ado, let's talk about it. First things first, before we get into this topic, I do want to say that I was recently on the YouTube channel Elevated Sports, where I talked about a lot of different things relating to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the general NFL, as well as other sports like the NBA and the MLB. So if you guys want to go check it out, I will link it down in the description below of this video. Second thing I want to mention real quick is there was an article written by Thomas Bassinger of the Tampa Bay Times that helped me out a lot in this video, because in that article, Thomas Bassinger explained all of the options in detail about what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can do with Jameis Winston, all the different types of tags they can give him, as well as short-term contract situations, and even the scenario where they don't decide to bring back Jameis Winston at all. So again, I will link that article, I guess I should say, again, down in the description below of this video. But let's start talking about some of the options the Buccaneers have with quarterback Jameis Winston. Now, Jameis Winston is a very polarizing figure in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers history, I guess you could say. Since the moment he has been drafted, Jameis Winston has essentially divided the fan base. You were either with Jameis Winston or you were against Jameis Winston, and there's really not a whole lot of room to be in between on that topic of speaking, I guess I should say. So it's definitely been very divisive, and now we're at a crossroads. We've been giving him one more chance. This is his last chance. No, this is his last chance. But guys, no, this is probably genuinely Jameis Winston's last chance. I know I said this last year, but I'm going to say it again this year. This might be it for him, okay? He's pretty much out of options at this point. So what can the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do with Jameis Winston? Well, the first option I want to talk about is the non-exclusive franchise tag. You guys have heard of the franchise tag. Multiple teams have used it on multiple players over the years, but I don't know if you guys knew this. There are two different types of franchise tags. There are the non-exclusive franchise tags and the exclusive franchise tags, and there's a big difference between the two. Let's start off by talking about the non-exclusive franchise tag, where Thomas Bassinger writes in this article, if the Bucs were to apply the non-exclusive franchise tag to Winston, they would be offering him a one-year contract that pays him the average of the top 5 quarterback salaries, which is projected to be $26.7 million. Now, the article does continue here, but just to paraphrase, the big thing about the non-exclusive franchise tag for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and for Jameis Winston is that Jameis Winston is allowed to go into free agency and negotiate with other teams. Other teams can offer Jameis Winston more money and more years in a contract. If a situation like that occurs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the option to match said contract. Now, here is the caveat of the non-exclusive franchise tag. If the Buccaneers decide, that's a lot of money and that's a lot of years. Let's just say, wild example here, the Chicago Bears offer Jameis Winston a 5-year, $32 million per year contract. Yes, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the option to match that offer, but if they decide on, you know what, that's a lot of money, that's a lot of commitment, we are not going to match this offer. The Chicago Bears would then have to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2 first-round draft picks as compensation under the rules of the non-exclusive franchise tag, which is pretty darn big in my opinion. And I will talk about all the options, which ones I like, which ones I don't like, in a little bit. But if I'm being honest here, just real quick, I really don't think a team would be willing to give up 2 first-round draft picks to sign Jameis Winston to a long-term deal. Now, I know a lot of people out there like Jameis Winston. I'm fine with Jameis Winston as well, but 2 first-round draft picks, that's giving up a lot, but who knows? We've seen a lot of crazy stuff in the NFL. A non-exclusive franchise tag could be a very legitimate option for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Talking about the exclusive franchise tag, very similar to the non-exclusive franchise tag, the price mark is still $26.7 million. The big difference here is that Jameis Winston cannot go off and negotiate with other teams. He is exclusively there to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which also means the Tampa Bay Buccaneers don't get any type of compensation, nor would they even have the option to, since Jameis Winston can't go and negotiate with other teams. However, there is a small caveat here with this one as well. The Buccaneers Buccaneers still always have the option of being able to trade Jameis Winston even after giving him the exclusive franchise tag. Now, in this article, Thomas Bassinger does write that it would be very similar to the scenario they had in the 2019 season, and I do tend to agree with that a lot. It definitely seems like one of the more likelier routes that they may go depending on the situation and how they view Jameis Winston moving forward, but the exclusive franchise tag is a very, very likely option, as well as the non-exclusive franchise tag. The next tag you have is the transitional tag, which under its rules, according to Thomas Bassinger on the Tampa Bay Times, would pay Jameis Winston a average salary of the top 10 quarterback salaries in the entire NFL, which right now, as of the recording of this video and as the writing of this article, translates to $24.3 million. Now, that is only a couple $1,000,000 less than the exclusive and non-exclusive franchise tags, but here is the difference of the transitional tag, is that Jameis Winston would be able to go and negotiate with other teams, and Tampa Bay, again, much like the non-exclusive franchise tag, would have the option of matching any offer that Jameis Winston receives. However, if they do not match the offer, they do not receive anything in compensation. They just lose out on Jameis Winston. So you can see why the transitional tag is a, kind of a interesting option. You are paying Jameis Winston a couple million more dollars less than, say, the exclusive or non-exclusive franchise tags, but if you lose him to free agency, a team offers him $26, $27, $28 million, or even $30 million or $32 million, they wouldn't get anything in compensation. Whereas with the non-exclusive franchise tag, yeah, you're paying him, say, around $2 million more, but you can get 2 first-round draft picks as compensation if you lose Jameis Winston to another team who's willing to offer him a better contract. So I think in this scenario, I like the non-exclusive franchise tag option more than the transitional tag. It's only a couple million more dollars less. It's not really that big a deal at the end of the day, and you don't even get any compensation if you lose Jameis Winston on the transitional tag. So I think that that's probably one of the lesser enticing options for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to choose. The next option I want to talk about here is a short-term contract that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could offer Jameis Winston. Now, in this article, Thomas Bassinger does write that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have done some pretty sneaky things with their short-term contracts as of late. They've done it with guys like Donovan Smith, Ryan Jensen, among others, where essentially they give you a good chunk of guaranteed money at the beginning of the contract, and then there are almost no guarantees after a couple of years. It could be 1 year, it could be 2 years. There's a certain point where the contracts just hit a point where they say, hey, the Buccaneers don't guarantee you anything, we can pretty much get rid of you. Now, Thomas Bassinger does list that as an option. I think that is certainly an option as well. We could see that, although honestly, it's pretty unlikely in my opinion. I really don't know what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers want to do right now. It's honestly, guys, I think it's a toss-up right now, but short-term contract could always be an option. Let's say they give Jameis Winston's first year guaranteed, but after that, there are no guarantees under any circumstances with his contract moving, say, into year 2 or even year 3. That would give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the option of, we can get rid of Jameis Winston at any time. And if we have a backup plan that we like, we can just move on from Jameis Winston, cut him cold turkey, or even trade him to another team, get some form of compensation in that, and then we can work with whatever our backup plan is. It's essentially like giving him a franchise tag, just giving him a franchise tag with like 2 more years added on. So really interesting option there. Could be something they explore 100%. And then the second to last option I want to mention here is a long-term contract extension where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just say, you know what, screw it, we're giving Jameis Winston a long-term contract, we are all in, Jameis Winston is our franchise quarterback. That seems like the most unlikely option to me right now, and I know there's a lot of Winston fans out there. Again, I don't mind Winston at all. I think he's a fine quarterback and he has some very positive qualities to him, but he hasn't shown a whole heck of a lot that says, hey, I deserve a 5-year deal. I deserve to be one of the, top, guys right now making $28, $30, $32 million, whatever his price tag is. He might deserve maybe the numbers in terms of, 20-something plus million dollars. But in terms of like a 5-year commitment, I personally would not be ready to make that commitment with Jameis Winston. I don't think the Buccaneers are in a position where they're going to say, okay, 5 more years of Jameis Winston, let's roll. I don't think that they're ready to make that commitment, and me personally, I wouldn't want them to make that such long-term commitment right now either. Finally, the last option we have is moving on from Jameis Winston. This is an option that is really, really tricky. I think, it is a likely option. We could see this, and it wouldn't blow my mind. But the big question here that everybody's been asking is, who would you replace Jameis Winston with? Now, I've seen a lot of people say a lot of different things about a lot of different scenarios for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their quarterback situation right now. And I will talk about quarterback options moving forward in a future video. But in free agency, you have guys like Phillip Rivers, Teddy Bridgewater, among others that are out there, which could be intriguing options. I know people have said, oh, they suck, they suck, they would never work with Bruce Arians. Guys, Bruce Arians is a quarterback whisperer. I would like to think that he could work with any quarterback he's given, and he's shown a lot of respect for guys like Teddy Bridgewater, Phillip Rivers, among other quarterbacks that are going to be available in free agency. So I really wouldn't count that out. You also have the option of trading for a quarterback. There's a handful of backup quarterbacks in the league right now. Tyrod Taylor, maybe they could trade for Nick Foles. His situation in Jacksonville is very tricky right now. Maybe they could trade for another quarterback. Maybe Derek Carr from the Oakland Raiders. Who knows? That could always be an option as well. Certainly don't count them out trading for a quarterback if they decide to move on from Jameis Winston. And also there's always the draft. Justin Herbert, Jacob Easton has been two quarterbacks that a lot of Bucs fans and Bucs media have been, salivating over in terms of potentially finding a successor to Jameis Winston. You can't count those options out as well. So I wouldn't necessarily say that, it's Jameis Winston or bust because there's nobody else out there. There are, different routes and avenues you can take to find a replacement for Jameis Winston, and I think the Buccaneers know that, and I think Jameis Winston knows that as well. There's a lot of unknowns out there, certainly, but I trust Bruce Arians. I trust his coaching staff. Whoever is the quarterback for this upcoming season, I trust Bruce Arians and his coaching staff to get the absolute best out of them, given the circumstances of, whether it's a rookie, whether it's a free agent signing coming into the first year. Bruce Arians has said, they're going to be held to a championship, caliber type of play, and I believe him when he says that, and I'm not worried if the Buccaneers have to bring in somebody new for the quarterback position. Hey guys, was actually just editing this video and I wanted to insert this little clip in before I make my final points in this video. Is regardless of what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do with Jameis Winston, whether they bring him back or not bring him back, I think there is going to be a very, very good backup option on this team. If they bring back Jameis Winston, there is going to be a backup that could easily start if the Buccaneers decide to bench Jameis Winston at some point. The Buccaneers are going to have a very, very solid backup plan if they bring back Jameis Winston. There are no doubts about that in my mind. Also, one quick thing I want to mention. I was talking to Corey Draper about this, the play reaction, and I had the absolute crazy theory of what if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers enticed former Indianapolis Colts quarterback Andrew Luck to come out of retirement. They trade for his rights. You would have to give up a lot, but a 31-year-old Andrew Luck, he plays for the Buccaneers for the next 5 to 6 years. Sign me up for that one. I would be 1,000,000% okay with that. Could always be an option. I think that Bruce Arians would at least make a phone call to Andrew Luck, maybe nothing crazy, and just say, hey, Andrew, how you doing? Not saying, hey, man, how you doing? You want to come to the Buccaneers, and just say, hey, man, how are you feeling? You feeling better? I know you took a year off. What are you thinking about? I think at least Bruce would make a phone call along those lines. But guys, here's the answer to this question, at least in my opinion. What will the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do with Jameis Winston? Will they re-sign Jameis Winston? Guys, I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say that Jameis Winston will be back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the 2020 season. I think that he will either A, get an exclusive franchise tag from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or B, get a non-exclusive franchise tag from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I really think that both those options are two of the safest options for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. The short-term contract, that could be an option as well, but I really don't think they're going to be, too crazily involved with that. Long-term contract, I really think is out of the question right now, given the type of baffling year that Jameis Winston had. The transitional tag I don't like a lot because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could always lose Jameis Winston for basically nothing. But with the exclusive and non-exclusive franchise tags, obviously with the exclusive one, Jameis Winston can't go and negotiate with other teams. He would pretty much just be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or be with nobody. But in the case of the non-exclusive franchise tag, I think I like that option the most. It pays Jameis Winston $26.7 million. That's a big payday. I believe Jameis Winston made $20 to $22 million this season, so definitely a big upgrade of a payday for him. But even if you do lose Jameis Winston, you get 2 first-round draft picks in return for losing Jameis Winston. That's pretty nice compensation if you ask me. You could use those first-round draft picks to maybe trade up in the draft, or maybe just trade for a different quarterback in general. Who knows? You would have a lot of options if you got 2 first-round draft picks and then had to move on from Jameis Winston. So, in my mind, guys, I would probably go with a non-exclusive franchise tag. You still have the option of keeping Jameis Winston. It is, you do run a risk of losing Jameis Winston to a different team who's willing to offer him more money, and there will be teams out there who will consider that, but you would get 2 first-round draft picks in return, and that's pretty darn good compensation if I do say so myself. So, guys, you've heard my answer. I think Jameis Winston will be back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the 2020 season under the exclusive or non-exclusive franchise tags. I've listed all of the options of the tags, the short-term and long-term contract extensions, as well as saying goodbye to Jameis Winston. But I want to hear from you guys down in the comment section below. What do you think will happen with Jameis Winston for this upcoming offseason and for the 2020 regular season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Do you think he will stay? If so, which option did I talk about that you guys will think the Buccaneers will apply to Jameis Winston, or do you think he's not going to stay at all? And if he doesn't stay, where do you think Jameis Winston is going to go? Let me know what you think about all of this down in the comment section below. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm very excited to get some off-season videos rolling. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is my favorite time of the year. I'd be having more fun if we were in the playoffs, but the offseason is one of the most exciting times for my channel. It's a lot of growth, a lot of community building, and I absolutely love it. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. Now we'll see you in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.